Did you know the best seeds for your garden don't come from the nursery? In fact, the seeds that will create the most robust and delicious fruits and vegetables come directly from your garden. This is because they are uniquely adapted to your growing conditions, better than anything you can buy from a fancy catalog or website. Through the magic of seed saving, it is quite possible to have the garden of your dreams. The best part is, saving your own seeds is surprisingly easy and fun. With a bit of instruction, anyone can become a seed-saving superstar. Let us teach you how in our free seed-saving webinar. Just text SEEDS to 33444 to sign up, or visit seedsavinghacked.org for more information. That's SEEDS to 33444, or visit seedsavinghacked.org.
You're listening to the Urban Farm Podcast, your partner in the Grow Your Own Food revolution. Whether you've just been introduced to urban farming or you're a lifelong advocate, we're sure you'll leave feeling more informed, equipped, and empowered to dig deeper into the soil of your local food economy. With you every step of the way, here's your host, Greg Peterson.
Today on the Urban Farm Podcast, we have Sine Lindholm to talk about her open source urban farming Growroom. Sine is from Denmark and has a degree in architecture from Aarhus School of Architecture, along with an emphasis on psychology. This shows in her projects where she is combining the two, with her main focus on the theoretical and abstract part of architecture. She grew up on an organic farm with milking cows. However, she had never worked with agriculture or urban farming before until she won an architecture competition together with architect and carpenter Mads-Ulrik Husum. Together, they designed an urban farming pavilion, which received great attention and led to further development of the project. Then, they teamed up with Space 10, a future living lab, where they developed and released an open-source design of their pavilion. Together, they started the company Husum and Lindholm, where, for the moment, they primarily focus on further development of combining architecture with gardening. On the basis of spatial experimentation with urban farming, they strive toward creating architecture where atmosphere and sensuousness acts as the primary design factors. Their goal? To generate poetic spaces where a symbiotic relationship with vegetation arises. Welcome to the show today, Sine.
Thank you so much, Greg. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you from the other side of the world from where we're at.
Yes.
So I shared a bit about you. Can you fill in the blanks for us and share more about the path you took to get where you're at now?
Sure. As I said, I'm an architect from Denmark. I studied in Aarhus and I live in Copenhagen now. And so what I'm going to talk about today, or what we are going to talk about today, is the urban farm sort of path that I took. But the path that I took before that was not about that at all. So I studied next to architecture, I studied psychology for a year.
Oh, wow.
Yes, that's like a part of my more like a phenomenological approach to architecture that I actually worked with for a long time. Mm-hmm. And so I have this more like artistic approach to architecture, and it's not at all pragmatic. Mm-hmm. So this urban farm direction is very new, but very exciting. So I'm trying to sort of combine these two sort of directions, the pragmatic and the very phenomenological approach.
Mm-hmm. So why did you head from architecture into urban farming? What's your spark there?
I can also say that I grew up at an organic farm. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. So I don't know if that sort of came very natural in a way. But then I applied for this, or I participated in this competition where I decided to choose the urban farm competition concept to make a project from that. And that's how it went on, I guess. I feel like I don't have like a specific answer to why it sort of ended here, or I mean, it doesn't end here, but but why it sort of came to that I became like an urban farm architect suddenly. Yeah, I was still questioning myself the same. So yeah. Yeah.
Well, growing up on an organic farm milking cows probably had something to do with it, don't you think?
I guess so, yeah. Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, perfect. Perfect. So you teamed up with Space 10, a future living lab, and that's how your grow room got created?
Yes, it's true. I teamed up with my partner, Mads-Ulrik, and then we entered this competition, and the competition ended with that Space 10 took over this pavilion. And then we kept on working together to create an open source of the pavilion, which became a huge project suddenly. So yeah, Space 10, a future living lab, it's true. They are sponsored by IKEA. So it's a great place, and they're really feeling the pulse of what is happening around the world in terms of everything. So it's a really interesting place, yeah.
Cool. So I actually saw pictures of your grow room online here about 3 months ago, and then it was like, oh wow, we've got to talk to these guys on what this is. So for somebody that hasn't seen a grow room and what this is, you can go to urbanfarm.org/growroom, and there'll be pictures that we post there. But Sine, I want you to kind of give people a mental picture of what this grow room is.
Okay. So the grow room is an urban farm, but it's built as a sphere. So it's sort of, it doesn't fit to any specific context because it's as a sphere, so it doesn't have a backside. And then it's sort of, you can walk into it. And so that's where I would say like the magic happens, because the whole sphere is built from the green, and it's sort of built like a shelf system. So it's like divided into shelves, and on these shelves you put on the vegetation, and then you walk into it, and then inside this growing sphere, you share the seeds with the plants, so you actually become a part of this sort of growing globe in a way. You feel like going back to nature, and bugs are swirling around, and you are talking to strangers. So it's also like with these social aspects that is very interesting in this growing sphere as well, because it's sort of it creates like this poetic space inside of it, where you still have the transparency, so you can still see beyond like the borders, because it is the idea was that you shouldn't be able to sort of see the building structure, but it would be the green stuff that would shape the sphere in a way. So, and it's not that big. I mean, we built it 4 meters high, so it's like you can measure your own body scale to it, and
right.
Yeah. So in that sense,
so that's about 16 feet tall, ish. And I seem to have remembered, though, that I've seen different sizes of them. So you make them smaller as well, right?
Yes. The thing was that because it got really, really well, what can you say, like attention from this, the first grow room that we built. So we decided to, and a lot of people wanted to exhibit it, and they asked if they could sort of borrow it for different exhibitions or events, because it speaks to so many different themes. And then we decided together with Space 10 to create an open source edition of the Grow Room. So it's a little bit different and a little bit smaller, so that you feel like you are able to build it yourself or together with one other person. And the new one, the open source, it's only created from one material, plywood. And and you can cut it in a Fab Lab, so you can download all the files and you can actually just build it everywhere in the world.
Oh wow!
So so it's free and open for everyone to use.
Nice. So I'm actually looking at a picture of the open source one, and it looks to be maybe 8 feet tall, 2 meters tall.
It's 2.6 meters tall.
2.6. Okay, good.
Yeah.
And let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 shelves. So it's a sphere shape, and there's a doorway in, and so the center is open, and then the shelves run all the way around it.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. So connect me from, you have this thought about urban farming to actually creating this. How did that happen?
Well, it wasn't planned at all. I was at an artist residency at that time in Iceland, and my partner was in Denmark, so we did it all through Skype. And maybe because I was surrounded by all this nature in Iceland, I don't know.
Right.
But then we read this brief, and it was Space 10 that said that they had to be able to travel around with this urban farm pavilion, and so it had to be very easy to separate and build it up again. So it had to be like a building structure that was very easy.
Got it.
And then when from, it didn't have like a specific context, so that's why we thought about not building like a backside, and we made it all into like this very, what can you say, like organic and very, just like the shape that everyone can sort of understand and grasp. So we wanted to create this idea of the green globe that was growing all by itself, and to sort of create like a focus on that whole theme. Yeah.
So you made it planet shape, and oh my gosh, we're growing food on this planet.
Yeah, it's like very naive, but it works apparently.
So the small one, the 2.5 meters tall, that's made all of plywood. The larger one, what has it been made from?
It's also from plywood, but then we have some steel in it as well. But then that's very expensive. It was created just for this structure, so it wasn't like something that you can go down and buy in a shop.
Right.
And in this open source, we wanted to make it as cheap as it could possibly be, and we wanted to make it as easy for the next one that wanted to download the files and cut them on a machine and then build it up. So in this new open source, you are not using anything else but 2 hammers and your bare hands, and then you don't even use screws and other stuff. So that's why it's
just tongue and groove it together.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
That is the new.
Nice. So if somebody wanted to build one of these open source, where do we find plans for them? You
can find it through Space 10's website.
Okay. And that would be, I was just on it, space10.io.
Yes, exactly.
Nice. So have you gotten any feedback from people that they're actually building these?
It's very new still. I mean, this open source was released, I don't know if it was 3 weeks ago, but we had a lot of feedback from people that are saying that they want to build it, and it's like all around the world. It's from Asia to United States, and also Africa.
Nice.
But we haven't seen it like really yet. But we can't wait to see how people sort of create their own idea of it and also make them their own. So I have like a wish for it to pop up around the world, like small personalities that they are totally different from each other, but they are still in the same family in a way. So I can't wait at all. So please build it.
Yeah. What do you love about your grow room?
I mean, it's still very new to me that this was received so positive from other people all around the world. But what I love about it is that it's so easy for people to grasp. Yeah. And it's just so down to earth in a way. And what I love about it is that I'm not at all a gardener or anyone that knows a lot of stuff about green or vegetation. But, I'm an architect, and maybe that's why I have like this naive approach to urban farming maybe when I started to do this. And this is sort of the the outcome of that in a way. Mm-hmm. So what I love about it is that it combines this very specific, urban agriculture discussion with a very easy to read design. Mm-hmm. So the design sort of reveals what is going on, how plants are growing, and just like experimenting with the urban farm concept. Yeah.
Nice. So what is it that you as an architect can contribute to the urban farming movement or add to that context?
So what I like about it as well, that's a good question.
Thanks.
So,
You actually sent it to us, so I'm just...
Totally. It's true. So I feel like that we, or myself as an architect, we have like a responsibility to contribute to the problems or the discussions that are going around in the world. Mm-hmm. And this urban farming or bringing back agriculture to the urban realm or vegetation back is a discussion that is very big, and a lot of people are working with this concept in many different ways, like in rooftops and So I think that as an architect, I think it's very important to follow up on these movements and these directions. Yeah. And I think as an architect, I hope that I, with this design, can sort of point in a direction, because this, pavilion is not really solving a problem. Really, it's not like solving that we can all go and get like vegetables or vegetation from this pavilion, but it points in a direction where you ask questions about like future living cities and just the whole urban fabric. So that's why I feel like architecture is just important, that we address these problems or these, what can you say, also, it's not just issues, but also things that we can actually develop on and make even better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're doing that, so yay. So, kind of on the tails of that question, why is it important to combine the different disciplines, in this case, architecture and agriculture?
I think it's very important to combine different subjects in many different matters, and not just architecture and different, because architecture can always be, paired up with different other directions or other, what can you say, like subjects. But it's always good to pair up different, mindsets and different themes.
Disciplines?
Disciplines, exactly. So when they come together, you can create something even bigger. And for me, in this case, or for us in this case, the urban farm was sort of, we had like this very naive approach to it, but we used it. And of course, it's not like the perfect way to build an urban farm pavilion at all. Uh-huh. But with our different approach to vegetation than, for example, gardeners, it became something else than just like an urban farm, you would say.
Yeah.
So that's why it's important to sort of combine different elements. Different views.
So, well, in looking at it, this is really vertical farming at its finest from the pictures. You're stacking the food. Have you thought about making it into a greenhouse?
A greenhouse, yeah. We have. We have many different ideas. Uh-huh. How it could be further developed, and we have had a lot of new suggestions and people that are writing to us. Could you please incorporate, or do you have an idea to incorporate different, watering systems as well, and could you grow this and this and this? So we are totally working on a lot of stuff, and it could be a greenhouse. Yeah, definitely. As I see it now, the pavilion is open sourced, and I would love for people to explore, for example, to wrap it in, to make it be useful for something else or something more than what it is now. Yes. So yes.
Why did you decide to make it open source?
We decided to make it open source because a lot of people were writing to, especially Space 10, if they could borrow it, or if you could send it with a ship, or they wanted to exhibit it, or they wanted to use it for different events. Uh-huh. And then Space 10, they, as I said, they have the finger on the pulse, so they know what is sort of happening in the world. So this open source maker movement is very big right now. Mm-hmm. And instead of, shipping this pavilion around the world, we decided to say, okay, let's join this movement, and let's make this pavilion a mark for this making, this open source maker movement, mm-hmm. A point in that direction instead. So now, when it's open source, people can just, build it as much as they want. So if they want to exhibit it in Asia or in America or wherever, Europe, they can do it instead of, spending a lot of money, and instead of us earning mm-hmm. a lot of money on this small pavilion. So it's just it's marking this new movement that we have to share, this whole sharing culture, mm-hmm. sharing economy, and now I call it sharing architecture. But this whole idea of local production. Yeah. And that we have to sort of come together to survive all these,
mm-hmm.
the new...
yeah,
exactly. Mm.
The stuff. So you used a term that is fairly new, and some people might not know what it means, and that's the maker movement. Can you kind of tell us what that is?
Yes. The maker movement is the local production. Mm-hmm. It's a combination of the local production and... you can also say a shared economy, where you actually, instead of you going out and buying all your furniture or your houses or, even bigger stuff, you can actually build it yourself. So what we see now is a movement where these fab labs are popping up around in the city, mm-hmm. in the cities, where people can, cut out whatever and build whatever they want instead of going to stores and buy it. So it's back to basic in a way.
Yeah. Learn how to make it yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. And just to be able to make it yourself, feel like you actually are able to do what you want. Yeah.
Well, so many things are lost in our culture these days because it's done for us. So, having I actually love the maker movement. I love that it's, we're back here. So yay.
Exactly. Yeah. And I would also like to say that, when we, when this knowledge is shared as a common resource, we can actually, we can develop the science and technologies much faster and easier than with, conventional processes when we are benefiting communities of all sorts. So yeah, so in that sense, it's a good idea. We can share the knowledge that we have.
Yeah. I want to read one sentence out of your bio, and then we're going to shift here because I just love this. It says, this is talking about your company, on the basis of spatial experimentation with the urban farming concept. You and your partner strive toward creating architecture where atmosphere and sensuous acts are the primary design factors, to generate poetic spaces where a symbiotic relationship with vegetation arises. Tell me about that. That is beautifully written, by the way.
Very poetic. I mean, maybe this is where my, previous approach to architecture or what can you say, psychology is sticking out its nose. Yep. So in this sense, we are writing that we strive towards creating architecture where atmosphere and sensuousness acts as the primary design factors. So we want to create architecture where around, to create atmosphere and sensuousness, or sensuous spaces.
Yeah.
And we want to create poetic spaces. So that is sort of my idea of, or something that I feel like I can actually contribute with in terms of my previous work or my education or the things that I am very interested in, is how we sense space or how we feel in space and what space gives back to us in a way.
Yeah.
And, for example, this vegetation, it gives back so much without, because in nature we feel very natural. So just by bringing the vegetation and combining that with architecture or design, it's like a free, it just gives back so much as a design factor.
Yeah. Beautifully said. So I'm going to shift on you, and I'd like for you to talk about a time you failed, how you overcame that failure, and what you might have learned from it.
Okay, so I clearly remember a time where I feel like I failed. It was actually when I was in the architecture school, and I was sort of hitting my head to a wall, and I felt like I didn't want to study architecture anymore at all. So I totally threw it away. I didn't want to study it at all, so I decided to go a totally different direction. I wanted to study psychology. And then, I felt like, okay, but it was totally fine, because then I could sort of say, okay, but then I wanted to be a psychologist, or I wanted to study psychology. But then I actually decided that I didn't want to do that at all. Anyway, so I really missed being creative. So I really felt like that was a big failure for me, that I was like at a place in my life where I didn't know what I wanted to do at all. But then, after all of that, and I came back to architecture, and after that, I've totally brought that with me in my work. So
yeah, I
guess that wasn't a failure, but at that point, I must say it was, yeah.
Amen to that. That's the whole point of having this conversation. It's like, you started someplace and you saw it as a failure, and then you went someplace else and you learned a lot of really good stuff.
Exactly.
To bring it into the architecture. So what do you consider your biggest success story?
My biggest success story? Maybe I don't feel like I have like a specific success story, but I feel like I've always tried to do what I wanted to do. So when I graduated from, I graduated in 2014, so it's not that
that long ago.
Long ago. But after that, it's always like, the society we have today. You have to go out, and you have to get a job, and you have to, follow the society, and you have to do all of this, and you have to get a family, you have to get kids, and all these aspects. And so I've always tried to do what I felt was the right thing to do. And so I didn't go out to get a job. I tried to, do my own work, become an artist more than an architect instead. And I actually didn't make any money for a long, long time. So thank God we have a good system in Denmark that supports that as well. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know, like the whole development was, and then when this happened, this Growroom, I must say that is one of the biggest, achievements, I guess, or the biggest things that has happened recently. So I must say that as well. When that came open source and people got to know it, and yeah, so. Yeah, the whole development, I guess, from graduation to now.
Yeah, nice. What drives you in all of this?
Maybe it depends on what you are, but I feel like for me, I think I wouldn't be myself if I wasn't, interested in architecture and art. And I think, and I'm sure that I say that I speak for a lot of people's, architects and artists, that they would say the same, that it's sort of just a part of your personality that you have to keep on, developing yourself. You just can't not do it in a way.
Yeah, I completely understand that one.
And I guess it's also like if you have a fetish for urban farming or whatever,
right, exactly.
You just feel like you have something that you have to do in this world.
Yeah. Yes. So I'm all about education. I have to know, is there a book that's been influential for you in this process in your life?
When I did my final thesis, I had this book called Losing Sight from Shelley Hornstein, I think she is called, which is about architecture, memory, and place, which is a very different approach to architecture that I've been talking about before in this interview as well, but about how your memory of a place is actually as important as the place itself, because that's what you bring home with you. So it's the experience of the place, not so much the physical frames, but the experience from the place that you bring home with you that is the most important. So that is maybe also what I'm trying to say with this sentence that you said before, that we are trying to create these spaces where you actually get crazy experience.
Yeah. Nice. What was the name of the book again?
Losing Sight.
Losing Sight.
Yes.
Okay,
Losing Sight.
So what one final piece of advice do you have for our listeners?
I guess if you feel like you have a motivation or something that you really strive for, then never stop working for it. And I can only, speak for myself that I really felt like I couldn't be, doing what the society wanted me to do. So I went my own ways, and I can only encourage people to do what they feel like they should be doing in their lives. So I don't know, maybe that was like a very big
that was beautiful
philosophical but that is my advice, I guess.
Yeah, beautifully said. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the show and sharing your experience with us today, Zina. It has been a treat getting to chat with you.
Great. Thank you, Greg.
Yeah, absolutely. So how can our listeners get a hold of you?
They can email me or go to my website or go to my Facebook.
Okay. What's your website?
My website is www, and maybe I should say my company's website now.
Perfect.
It's Husum Lindholm, HUSUMLINDHOLM.com.
Perfect. And you can find show notes from today's podcast, including how to get a hold of Zina at urbanfarm.org/growroom. Well, that's it for today. Thanks for joining us on the Urban Farm Podcast. Did you know the best seeds for your garden don't come from the nursery? In fact, the seeds that will create the most robust and delicious fruits and vegetables come directly from your garden. This is because they are uniquely adapted to your growing conditions, better than anything you can buy from a fancy catalog or website. Through the magic of seed saving, it is quite possible to have the garden of your dreams. The best part is, saving your own seeds is surprisingly easy and fun. With a bit of instruction, anyone can become a seed-saving superstar. Let us teach you how in our free seed-saving webinar. Just text SEEDS to 33444 to sign up, or visit seedsavinghacked.org for more information. That's SEEDS to 33444, or visit seedsavinghacked.org.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Urban Farm Podcast. Remember to listen 3 days a week for tips, advice, and resources to help you on your journey with urban farming. You can find us on the web at urbanfarm.org or send us an email to podcast@urbanfarm.org. In the words of Vincent van Gogh, great things are done by a series of small things brought together. Be encouraged that with each lesson learned and skill developed, you are one step closer in the direction of your dreams.